Welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that's about as fun as a root canal performed by a bear wearing oven mitts. The top 10 worst countries in the world. Now, before you grab your pitchforks and accuse us of being all doom and gloom, let me assure you, this isn't about pointing fingers or reveling in misery. Look, ranking countries like this is inherently a bit of a messy, subjective business. After all, worst can mean a whole bunch of different things to different people. But what we're trying to do here is shine a light on some very real, very serious issues facing certain nations today. We're talking about systemic problems that impact millions of lives every single day. Think of it less like a top 10 list and more like a please pay attention to these deeply concerning situations list. So buckle up, because we're about to take a trip around the globe to some places that, frankly, could really use a win right now. Let's get started. First up, we have Country A, a nation that's been locked in a perpetual state of oh dear God, what now? For longer than most of us can remember. We're talking about a place where political instability isn't just a news headline, it's practically the national anthem. Coups happen more often than elections, and the only thing more volatile than the government is the price of bread. But it's not just the political landscape that's gone to seed. The economy is about as stable as a Jenga tower built on a waterbed. Hyperinflation has become a way of life, unemployment is through the roof, and basic necessities are about as easy to come by as a unicorn riding a unicycle. And if you thought things couldn't get any bleaker, well, let's talk about human rights, or rather the distinct lack thereof. Freedom of speech? More like freedom to stay silent if you know what's good for you. Freedom of the press? The only press they've got is the one used to iron out the wrinkles in their censorship stamps. It's a grim picture, to be sure, and sadly, it's a reality for millions living in Country A. Next, we travel to Country B, a nation where conflict has become as commonplace as rush hour traffic. We're not just talking about a little border skirmish here. This is a full-blown, years-long conflict that's left the country in shambles and its people caught in the crossfire. Imagine living in a place where the constant threat of violence hangs over you like a bad case of indigestion, where the sound of bombs going off is as familiar as birdsong, and where fleeing your home isn't a vacation, it's a desperate attempt to stay alive. The human cost of this conflict is staggering. We're talking about millions displaced from their homes, countless lives lost, and a generation of children who have only ever known war. The infrastructure is in ruins, the economy is on life support, and basic services like healthcare and education are about as reliable as a weather forecast from a magic 8-ball. It's a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions, and the people of Country B are the ones paying the price. Now let's shift gears and head over to Country C, a nation where poverty isn't just a problem, it's practically woven into the fabric of society. We're talking about a place where access to basic amenities like clean water, sanitation, and electricity is about as rare as finding a parking spot in downtown Manhattan on a Saturday afternoon. Imagine living in a place where simply surviving is a daily struggle, where children go to bed hungry, families live in makeshift shelters, and the simplest illnesses can quickly turn deadly due to a lack of health care. This isn't just about a lack of money, it's about a lack of opportunity, a lack of infrastructure, and a lack of basic human dignity. The cycle of poverty is a vicious one, and in Country C, it's a cycle that's proven incredibly difficult to break. Chapter 4, Country D, Corruption's Playground. Our next stop takes us to Country D, a nation where corruption isn't just a problem, it's practically the national sport. We're talking about a place where bribery is as commonplace as shaking hands, where government officials treat public funds like their own personal piggy banks, and where accountability is about as common as a sober night out for Keith Richards. This rampant corruption has a devastating impact on every aspect of life in Country D. It siphons off resources meant for essential services like healthcare, education, and infrastructure, leaving the population to fend for themselves. It creates an uneven playing field where businesses can't thrive without greasing the palms of corrupt officials, stifling economic growth and innovation. And perhaps most insidiously, it erodes trust in institutions, leaving people feeling powerless and disillusioned. Chapter 5. Country E, Living in Fear. Hold on tight, folks, because we're heading to Country E, a nation where the only thing higher than the crime rate is the blood pressure of its citizens. We're talking about a place where walking down the street at night feels like playing a real-life game of Grand Theft Auto, where home security systems are as ubiquitous as welcome mats, and where the police are often outnumbered, outgunned, and frankly, just plain outmatched. This pervasive sense of lawlessness creates an environment of fear and uncertainty. People are afraid to leave their homes, businesses are hesitant to invest, and the very fabric of society begins to fray at the edges. It's a vicious cycle as crime breeds more crime and the lack of safety and security becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Chapter 6: Country F and Environmental Catastrophe. Buckle up, buttercups, because we're about to visit Country F, a nation that's locked in a desperate battle against Mother Nature herself. And spoiler alert, Mother Nature is winning. We're talking about a place where climate change isn't some abstract concept discussed in university lecture halls. It's a daily reality that's wreaking havoc on the environment and the people who call it home. Think scorching droughts that turn fertile farmland into barren wastelands, rising sea levels that swallow coastal communities whole, and extreme weather events that make hurricanes look like a light spring breeze. This isn't just about saving the planet, folks. It's about saving lives. The environmental degradation in Country F is leading to food shortages, water scarcity, and displacement of entire communities. It's a stark reminder that climate change is not some distant threat. It's happening right now, and it's having devastating consequences. Chapter 7. Next up, we're off to Country G, a nation where freedom of speech is about as welcome as a skunk at a garden party. We're talking about a place where the government keeps a tighter rein on information than a dog walker with a pack of hyperactive chihuahuas. Dissent, criticism, independent thought. Those are about as welcome as a vegan at a barbecue competition. The media is tightly controlled, censorship is rampant, and expressing any opinion that deviates from the official party line can land you in hotter water than a lobster at a seafood restaurant. This suppression of free speech creates a climate of fear and self-censorship, where people are afraid to speak their minds or challenge the status quo. It's a recipe for stagnation, as innovation and progress thrive on the free exchange of ideas. Chapter 8. Country H, Healthcare. More like healthcare? Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to enter the world of Country H, a nation where the healthcare system is about as reliable as a used car salesman with a heart of gold. We're talking about a place where access to basic medical care is a luxury few can afford, where hospitals resemble something out of a horror movie, and where even a mild case of the sniffles can quickly escalate into a life-or-death situation. Imagine a world where a simple doctor's visit could bankrupt your family, where essential medicines are in short supply, and where preventable diseases run rampant due to a lack of basic healthcare infrastructure. It's a bleak picture, to be sure, and one that highlights the fundamental importance of a functioning healthcare system in ensuring the well-being of a nation's citizens. Chapter 9. Country 1, the Education Abyss. Fasten your seatbelts because we're heading to Country 1, a nation where the education system is about as effective as a screen door on a submarine. We're talking about a place where schools are underfunded, overcrowded, and lacking basic supplies, where teachers are overworked and underpaid, and where children are deprived of the opportunity to reach their full potential. Imagine a world where access to quality education is a privilege, not a right, where children are forced to drop out of school to help support their families, and where ignorance becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. This lack of investment in education has dire consequences for the future of Country 1-1. It creates a workforce ill-equipped to compete in the global economy, perpetuates cycles of poverty, and stifles innovation and progress. Chapter 10. Country J, the Great Divide. Last, but certainly not least, we arrive in Country J, a nation where economic disparity isn't just a problem, it's practically a national pastime. We're talking about a place where the gap between the haves and the have-nots is wider than a canyon, where the rich live in opulent luxury while the poor struggle to put food on the table, and where social mobility is about as common as a unicorn sighting. This stark economic inequality creates a society riven by tension and resentment. It breeds crime, fuels social unrest, and undermines the very fabric of a just and equitable society. It's a stark reminder that a nation's wealth should be measured not just by its GDP, but by the well-being of all its citizens. Outro, a call to action, or at least awareness. Thank you for watching. Look, I know that was a lot to digest, and frankly, it's enough to make you want to crawl under your weighted blanket and never come out. But here's the thing, ignoring these problems won't make them go away. These countries and the millions of people who call them home deserve our attention, our empathy, and yes, even our outrage. Because when we turn a blind eye to suffering, no matter where it occurs, we become complicit in its perpetuation. So the next time you see a headline about one of these nations, don't just scroll past. Take a moment to learn more, to understand the complexities of the situation, and to consider what, if anything, you can do to make a difference. Even a small act of awareness can be a step in the right direction. See you next time.